everybody. Welcome back to Push Talk. Today is October 27th, James, and we have a very, 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 very special guest with us today.
Yes, we do.
We have the one and only, the Prison Doctor, fresh out of Atlanta, man. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well, excited, and very glad to be on your show.
So first off, I want everybody to get to know who you are, the story about how the Prison Doctor even came into play. And I think you told it so profoundly at the meeting where we met a couple of weeks ago. But just explain to everybody who you are.
Well, my name is Myron Fountaine. I'm a prison prevention specialist. I mentor at-risk youth. As a person who went to prison myself for a long time for vehicular armed robbery out of Detroit, I came home after all the years I served, and I was motivated to want to give back to my community. So I says, let me come up with something that, where I can help the community that I once stole from. And I came up with an organization called the Prison Doctor. And God has blessed it tremendously, where I'm able to do house calls and knock on doors and mentor some of the worst gang members, the most violent little kids you can ever possibly imagine. I go into those homes and I'm able to transform their lives in a way that most people can't. Police officers seem to not be able to really be effective with kids today. And God has anointed my life in such a way where I'm able to get through to them in a way, and it works very well.
So one of the things that I think we talked about recently is that we know that we have to start really going after our youth and talking to our youth. We know that they're one of the main factors right now. Like if we can catch them while they're young, pretty much we can help prevent them from ending up becoming a long-time offender, right?
Absolutely.
Why is it so important that we invest in our youth, and why is it so important that we invest in our youth now?
Well, because our youth is our future. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, what you see today is going to be a byproduct of what you get tomorrow. So I'm a very, very passionate person when it comes to our kids, and I'm very, very passionate when it comes to how parents parent. We often talk about stop the crime and stop the violence, but we can't talk about stop the crime and stop the violence until we talk about stopping parental foolishness. And that's just a reality. The apple don't fall too far from the tree. So if we don't address how parents parent and the things that they're doing that are causing our children to be so callous, so brazen, and so disruptive nowadays, and so non-caring about their lives, then we have to address, the parenting aspect of it. What are parents doing that maybe are perpetuating some of the violence in our own communities, even in our own homes. So I'm very, very serious about getting with the parents and sitting them down and trying to find out what they could be doing wrong. Because Sean, the reality is, when I do these house calls, oftentimes after I spend 5 minutes with the parents, I quickly understand what's going wrong with the child.
And that's interesting too. We were just actually holding a discussion I think the other day about there's a football player I'm working with now who's getting ready to build a school in South Fulton area, but we was talking about, he's going to be hosting kids between the age of 12 to 18, but we was just talking about the fact that they come through your program for like 2 or 3 years. Ultimately, that 12-year-old is going to go back home to his parent, right? Mm-hmm. And if we haven't rehabilitated the parent, the work that we've done on the child
absolutely
becomes in vain.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, the reality is, and again, it goes back to the parents, man. I've mentored kids, man, and where they would literally confess to me and say, hey, look, it's my mom or my dad. They're doing A, B, or C, and it's causing dramatic effect on their child's behavior. One of the things that I often talk about is the music. My dad was a Motown funk brother. So the horn on Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, Let's Get It On, that's my dad, Eli Fontaine. And back then, the music was inspirational. You know what I mean? It was inspiring. And groups called themselves the Supremes and the Miracles. You know what I mean? Supreme meaning the highest. And today kids are calling themselves B's and H's with problems. You know what I mean? And they're listening to music that defiles and degrades women. And oftentimes it's the parents who's playing this garbage in the homes where the kids have no escape. Right. So you have a child who has an undeveloped mind. His mind and brain is still growing. He's still taking in information, but yet we're polluting it before it's even fully developed with things that are so detrimental, it's ridiculous. And I have a serious problem with that. So until parents start taking accountability for their actions, then the kids, our society is going to be ruined. People are, acting like this, it's a mystery and what's going wrong with our kids. Everybody's acting like this is a big mystery. Why they're so bad? Why they're so brazen? They don't care about their lives. I don't understand how it's a big mystery when we know that the root is what you're doing at home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know if you remove God out the equation, which is another thing, Sean, that I speak about, very, very no nonsense. When we have moved God out the home and we don't speak no kind of spirituality to our children, there's no accountability there.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I definitely
The
know
kids
what you
are
mean.
now emboldened. There's nothing that's holding them accountable. You know, so we don't talk about God in the home enough, like we did back in the day. You know, our parents used to talk about God. You know, there's always some form of a spiritual connection, even if we were in our wickedness. You know, grandma and dad and mom, they still spoke about God. We had in the back of our brains that there was something or someone that would hold our little behinds accountable if we did the wrong thing, even in our madness. Today, these kids don't have that sense.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about the other day. Like my mom, even though they didn't go with us to church every Sunday, we were on the van every Sunday, whether or not they were with us or not. I mean, we went to Sunday school in the morning, and sometimes they'll come pick us up, and sometimes we'll ride that van back home. And sometimes they'll come to church, and we'll still ride the van back home. I'm going to take the break serious, but I mean, you're right, and it does something different to the child when there's something higher that caused them to be held to a higher account.
Sure.
And for me, I can speak for myself. I'm an ex-offender as well.
Sure.
And just for me, it was those moments, like it was remembering those prayers that Grandma got through for me, remembering the books that she made me read, remembering how the Bible studies I went to. Remember the discipline they taught you that when you go into there's certain places kids go now, and I realized this, that they don't consider it to be a place of holiness. And even church kids are disrespecting churches now.
Absolutely.
And back in our day, it was serious. Like when we went to church, there was no cell phone for us to have, and now you know, a child, you take away the iPad, they ready to tear the church down.
Exactly. Well, and going back off of what you just said about, you know, the scripture and remembering certain things that empower you. For me, it was always, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world.
Right.
That always stuck with me. Even when I was in prison, that stuck with me. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So I knew, even from that scripture, that there was something great inside of me.
Right.
Even if I didn't identify it at that particular time, I knew that there was something lying dormant in me, that if I could just tap into it, that I could bring it out and be great. Right. You know what I mean? I think about scriptures in Deuteronomy where it says, you will be the head and not the tail. I think about things like that, and that stuck with me as a child, because my mother and grandmother used to say those kind of things as a kid. All the time I would hear that in the house, even in my madness. Right. That stuff, because the Bible tells you about when you plant the seed, you know what I mean? One day it'll grow.
Right.
That's right.
And so unfortunately I had to go through some of the things that I went through, but it made me a much better person. It made me a more person that's empathetic and sympathetic to our children, to our youth. Yes. Because that's where I went wrong.
Right.
So I'm very passionate about the kids, Sean, and I don't play. I really don't. I don't. Oftentimes, it's like when we get around people in power, you know, like our legislatures or our mayors or governors or whomever it may be, that sometimes we don't speak the truth to them. We don't say what we really feel or what we really know to be true. We'll cow down. And I think until we learn to speak truth to power, real change will never come.
But I think also, too, for those who have that platform to be able to be in the room of power, we have an obligation to carry the concerns of what we hear to power. Absolutely. And hold them accountable.
No doubt about
it. And that's one thing that I'm all for. Like anybody I've ever spoke with, if there's an issue on the table, we're going to address that issue. If you don't want to address the issue, you don't want to talk to me.
Sure.
Because we did something this morning, and I put on the board while you were sleeping. And I got these stats of how many deaths there were yesterday. It was about, I think it was like 18 deaths yesterday in the Metro Atlanta area, and 3 of those were kids, right? We talked about how many people were incarcerated yesterday, and how many of those people who were incarcerated were able to bond out, right? It's just so crazy that while we're sitting up here talking, and while we're sitting up here having these platforms, and we're creating this environment, we're doing nothing with the platform, right? And it means nothing to have the platform and do nothing with it.
Sean, every election season, we have these people that run for office, and this isn't new stuff. This isn't like new information. They've been doing this stuff for decades, man. Where they run for office and they give these eloquent speeches, they make all these elaborate promises. You know what I mean? That we're gonna fight crime, we're gonna do this and that. They do it off the president. Everybody's done it for God knows how long. But every election season, when we put these people in office and they don't deliver on their promises, we don't hold them accountable for nothing.
Not at all.
We don't. I mean, I would even suggest even blackballing them, something.
Right.
When you make a promise and you don't deliver on that promise, when you get out of office, there has to be a consequence. I mean, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I mean that. Because, like Sean said, our kids are dying daily, and that's not a joke, man. And I think that people, we become like selfish to a degree as a people, where we can literally see somebody getting hurt or somebody getting victimized and not even want to do nothing about it because it's none of our business. That's what we say. Well, that's not my business what's going on with that little girl next door. Let them deal with that.
Right.
It's not our business that little lady getting, that lady's getting robbed on the corner or somebody's beating her up or some young girl is getting beat up on the corner by her boyfriend. Just keep going, leave it alone, don't get involved. I think we become that kind of a society, a hush-hush society.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I have a problem with that, quite frankly, Sean. I believe that men need to start standing up and showing out. That's what I believe. I believe that our men have been made impotent in a large degree today, where we don't stand for nothing, for the most part. I'm not saying all, for those who's listening or maybe watching, I'm not saying all. I'm saying the majority of men today are not the type of effective men that they should be in order to help their children. We don't speak God as men.
Right.
We don't sit here and lay down good role models to our children. We don't stand up and speak against things that we know are fundamentally wrong. We'd rather shut up, stay quiet, mind our own business, and live our lives and behind our closed doors. And I'm saying, in order to help the community, to go back to citizenship, you know what I mean, where your neighbor was your responsibility. Things that happened on your block was important to you. Today, it's like nobody cares, man. It's like, no, we doing us. It's behind our closed doors. Let the Joneses do the Joneses, and we doing us. And I'm saying, in order to make any kind of drastic change that needs to be done, then we're going to have to come together as a community, start being more activists, and more about citizenship. Until that happens, Sean, quite frankly, this stuff is going to keep spiraling out of control, and we'll be at these kind of tables and going to 1,000 Stop the Violence rallies and Stop the Crime rallies and just going through this crap another 10 years from now.
Right.
Our kids can't wait, so I think we need to take more of a strong stance.
Yeah. A lot of that, getting back particularly to men, we have gotten away from our responsibilities and the proverbial adage of raise, it takes a village.
Absolutely.
We just, the villagers have either fallen by the wayside, prison, we have disappeared. We're not doing the village raising as we should, and we definitely need to get back to that. Is there any particular, or if you can wouldn't mind sharing with us the procedure of when you arrive to someone's house?
Sure. I just did one last night. But can I back up, if you don't mind? I want to address something real quick, going about cowardly men. And I mean no disrespect. I was recently at a forum, I'm not going to say where or how it went, and I had made a statement that the cost of locking someone up in Georgia is $90,000 a year. And if we were to prevent 600 potential at-risk kids from going to prison, that we would save in taxpayer money something like $54 million, right?
Right.
A particular individual had stated in rebuttal to what I said that, do you understand how much pushback we would get if that was to happen? How much pushback would happen? Because that's a lot of money, and the prison system wouldn't like that. And in my mind, I was saying to myself, that is ridiculous. Why would you care about pushback from the penal system and them losing money? They wouldn't like to lose $54 million in taxpayers' money, that they would fight us on that issue. Mm-hmm. Why would you care if we're talking about saving 600 kids' lives? So in other words, you're telling me that because of the pushback, we shouldn't focus on saving that kind of money or helping 600 kids not go to prison.
Right.
So it's those types of things that bothers me. When men make those kind of statements, it's like they put financial endeavors or the fight. They put that stuff in like it's more important than helping and saving our kids today. See, I don't care about the pushback. I don't care about the governor, the mayor, none of these people around here. I don't care what no one says. I care about the kids, man. And until we get on that platform and speak with that kind of passion and mean what we say and actively go out and do things about that, then there's going to be no change. So I just wanted to get that out. But going back to your question, when I go into homes with these at-risk youth, some of them are very violent. Some of them, the parents call me and may say, hey, look, My 13-year-old son slapped me with the phone and called me all kind of profane names. And I'm being very serious. Some of these kids out here doing things that you just wouldn't believe to their parents. I've had a kid slap his mother, a 12-year-old kid slap his mother and called her just nasty, just totally just disrespected her. So sometimes I have to go in there a little strong, if you know what I mean. And in those cases when I do, I have the permission from the parents before I go into the home to kind of do certain things, let me just put it that way, to get his attention. Once I do that and I gather his attention, and in 90% of the cases that I've done is never failed, I start a mentorship program where I start to ask him, you know, what's going on? What's making you do these types of things? You know, what makes you want to call your mother the B word? What makes you want to slap your mother and push her around like she's some kind of, you know, like she's nobody, you know? And it goes into a mentoring, you know what I mean? I won't go into the exact methods of what I use, but if you know more about it, for any listeners or viewers, you can contact me through the Prison Doctor on my Instagram, the Prison DR, or you can call me, 313-401-9766, and I'd be more than glad to share that information with you. But it's a very effective program that I have, and I have plenty of testimonials where parents have just been amazed, you know, with the fact of the intervention that we had and how their children has transformed their lives. And it's not a one-hitter quitter type deal. Right. I actually go back into the home, you know, a few times just to kind of keep the pressure on a little bit and start mentoring a young man or girl. And like I say, it's a very, very good program, and it has a high success rate.
Awesome. Do you have a staff with you as well, other females to help you with the female children or whatnot?
Great question. Yeah, I actually do. We just hired, or actually brought aboard, our first female prison doctor a few days ago. Asia is her name.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have on my Instagram the latest post. If you go on my Instagram, the Prison Doctor, the Prison DR, you'll see that posting with her. But she's an athlete. I think she's 23 years old. Has a great following on social media. She has great influence, and she's been through something. She has a testimony, and she has a passion and want to help kids and young girls. And she met with my board of directors the other day, and we all voted her in. And she's ecstatic. I'm ecstatic, and we're going to do great things.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Man, thank you for coming. That's amazing, and I really do appreciate the work that you do. And we have to, our two organizations have to figure out ways where we can work together. Because, I mean, knowing anything about our organization, we're about to work, we're not about to talk.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're at. And I think you've probably seen the email that the DA sent out, where I sent her email and said, we're ready. Yeah. So anything that you guys need, and we appreciate you for coming over, anything that you need, man, definitely reach out. We appreciate you giving us some more information. But again, your Instagram is?
The Prison DR. And my website is the prisondr.org.
prisondr.org.
Right, and for those who's listening, please reach out. My services are free. I don't even charge for this. You know, our prison doctors, we go out into the communities, we knocking on doors. I traveled an hour and a half from where I live to go to Cherokee. That's where I was last night. Cherokee, Canton, I believe, Cherokee, Canton. I drove an hour and a half through Atlanta traffic. Imagine that. I don't need to say no more. And for free. But this kid needed my assistance. The mom needed my assistance, and today he woke up, he took his little behind the school, and he's doing his chores when he gets home, and I'm gonna follow up with him later on the day and make sure he's doing it. I still have kids that call me from Detroit that I mentored 3 years ago that I've helped. They have access to me 24/7. It's a large responsibility that I take, but I love our kids, man, and I'm gonna represent, and that's just the bottom line.
All right.
Mad respect for what you do.
Yes.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you to the Prison Doctor for being here. Thank you for the hard work you guys are doing. And we look forward, like I said, to working with you guys in the future. And if you guys want more information, don't forget to check out his website at theprisondoctordr.org, or find him on Instagram at theprisondr. You guys have a blessed day, and until next time, we'll see you again.